If there's one thing club players love more than hitting winners, it's probably arguing about their equipment. You guys are always looking for the next best thing. Do you get the 2024 Pure Aero or the 2023 Pure Aero? Should you switch to a Speed Pro? Maybe if you move up your tension 2 pounds, your forehand will finally stop launching into orbit. But let us just say, your racket does not matter, because at every level, and genuinely every level short of actual borderline pro, ball striking machine, UTR 14 and above tennis, your biggest limitation is you. Your feet, your timing, your technique, your decision making, not your racket. Now, let's take a deeper look. But before we get deeper to why your racket doesn't matter and why the entire tennis gear industry hopes you never figure that out, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell. It would really mean a lot to us, because clearly your technique could use a little help, and maybe watching some hot take tennis is the first step to saving you from wasting money on another pointless frame. Alright, let's get into it. So every tennis player goes through this phase. The era where they believe they've found their holy grail stick. The era where if they just find the perfect racket, they will ascend. And we've been there, taking a look at Tennis Warehouse at 2 o'clock in the morning on a work night, browsing for the new best thing. We're watching slow motion forehands from players who virtually don't miss, convincing ourselves that if we buy the same frame, we'll magically hit like them. It's the oldest placebo in tennis. A lot of the time players mistake equipment for improvement because improvement is hard. You can't Amazon Prime yourself better footwork or 2-day ship yourself better timing. But you can order a $259 frame and pretend that it'll solve everything. And brands know this. The paint jobs, the endorsements, the aero spin, power flex fusion technologies that almost sound like a superpower. It's all designed to make you think the racket is the missing piece. Now, we wanted to shed some light on a video. Winston Du, another popular tennis YouTuber, around an 8 UTR, so good player, trains relatively seriously, and makes good high-level tennis content, played Carew Sell, a former UCLA standout, top 500 ATP player, 13 plus UTR, and a great ball striker. But the twist was that Carew used a Walmart racket. Essentially one of those rackets that you see on the walls at any Walmart for $20. A kid's racket, a starting racket. The kind of racket that rattles when you hit the ball too hard. Winston, using his proper setup and Pure Aero frame, they decided to play a set. Well, and guess what happened? That's right, Carew destroyed him. And he dominated with that children's toy. He hit clean, heavy, with angles, volleys with feel, and returned like he's using a pro stock. And Winston, who is a good player, couldn't do a thing about it. The skill gap was just too massive. And that's what created the outcome. The skill difference, not the equipment difference. If you drop Novak Djokovic into your local 4.0 league, or even just a decently high-level Division III tennis player, and gave them even a wooden racket from 1972, they'd figure out a way to win. That's the reality. Now, you may be asking, well, what actually matters? Well, there's 3 things. Technique, not perfect technique, not ATP technique, just functional technique. The ability to produce a repeatable stroke under pressure. The ability to time a ball moving at 50 to 70 miles per hour, and the ability to transfer weight without breaking your ankle every shot. If your mechanics aren't solid, no racket in the world will save you. And then there's footwork, probably the most overlooked skill and the most over-talked about skill in amateur tennis. Everyone thinks pros have clean strokes, and they do. But what they have, more importantly, is the cleanest movement. They get behind the ball correctly. They set up with balance, they move their weight into the shots, and they recover immediately. Amateurs don't miss because of the racket. They miss because they're late, off balance, or reaching. And then last but not least is decision making. Bad decisions ruin more points than bad equipment ever will. And you know what we mean. Trying to rip a winner from 6 feet behind the baseline on a defensive ball, hitting a drop shot on a ball bouncing below your knees, taking the ball on the rise when you absolutely don't need to, going for a 95-mile-per-hour second serve because you felt something. A good racket doesn't teach you shot selection. Experience does. Now, why do so many players believe rackets make such a massive difference? Well, we've narrowed it down to 2 reasons. There's identity behind a racket. People want their gear to feel like an extension of themselves. If you use a pure arrow, it means you're aggressive. If you use a prestige, it means you're a purist. If you use a pro staff, you're trying to be Roger Federer. Tennis rackets are personality tests disguised as sporting equipment. How many of you have bought your racket just based off of how it looks and not even looked at the specs? We'd imagine that's probably the majority of you. And if you're a 3.5 and you switch from a 100-inch power frame to a 95-inch control frame, yes, you're gonna feel a difference. Probably more power here, more control there, but here's the key. Those differences matter only once you are consistent enough to even use them. Carousel could beat Winston with a frying pan, probably. Sorry, Winston. But a beginner? A beginner might genuinely struggle with a heavy control racket because they don't have the timing yet. The difference is not performance, it's comfort. And comfort does not equal improvement. Now, let's be fair. It's not like equipment is completely irrelevant. And Carew did struggle at certain points of that match with the Walmart racket. Once you get to 7, 8, 9, 10 plus UTR or 5.0 plus or college level or above that, pro, futures, challengers, etc. At that level, you're dealing with different things. There's higher pace, tighter margins, more demanding footwork, faster reaction times, higher ball weights, and yes, your racket needs to match your game because the ball you're receiving is actually heavy enough to matter. But even then, skill is still 95% of it. No pro in the world thinks, wow, I won that match because of my string setup. They think, wow, I played well today. Equipment matters only when everything else is already elite. Or good, for that matter. Now, we thought the reason this topic deserves a whole video isn't because gear debates are funny. Well, they are, to a certain extent. It's more so because they represent a deeper truth intrinsically about tennis and tennis players, us as a community. A lot of us chase shortcuts instead of skills, and we're guilty of it. Rackets, overgrips, string tensions, the perfect forehand model, the right shoe for your movement style, so on and so forth. Meanwhile, the best players in the world became who they are because they just spent thousands upon thousands upon thousands of practicing perfectly, learning to solve problems on the court. You can buy a racket, but you can't buy experience. Carousel didn't dominate with a Walmart racket because he's superhuman. He dominated because the man has hit hundreds of thousands of balls more than Winston. He's played challenger level tennis. He's faced attackers, grinders, big servers, defenders, every style out there. And the racket becomes irrelevant compared to that. So here's the truth people don't want to hear. You don't need a new racket. You don't need a new frame, and you don't need a new stick. What you need are better fundamentals. If you want to improve, work on your timing, work on your spacing, that split step, learn when to change direction, learn how to control your margins, learn how to construct a point, learn how to defend, learn how to attack, learn how to recover, so on and so forth, because every single one of those skills matters more than your frame. Winston Dew is a strong 8 UTR, but Carousel is a 13 UTR with pro level feel. And that's why he wins. Whether he's using a $250 racket or a Walmart clearance special. At the end of the day, the racket doesn't make the player makes the racket. See you next time.